We are coming to you live from our Auckland Park studios. This is Prime News on SABC 3, and here's what's dominating in your leads at this hour. President Ramaphosa says that he does not object to the court ordering the removal of retired Justice Motsepe as the TRC inquiry chairperson. Thousands of Iranians rallied to mourn the late Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and to voice opposition to any negotiations with the United States and Israel as the conflict enters its 7th day today. And the presidency has announced that Musiuoa Lekota, the former Free State Premier and leader of the Congress of the People, will receive a special official funeral, Category 2. Very good evening to you and welcome to your Friday edition of Prime News on SABC 3. My name is Beki Mutumomolete. I invite you to stick with us as we chart a course through the day's top stories as we wrap up our news week. Let's take a look at your leads. We launch with this. In a document submitted before the Gauteng High Court in Johannesburg, President Cyril Ramaphosa says that he does not object to the court ordering the removal of retired Justice Motsepe as the TRC inquiry chairperson. Ramaphosa adds that he would not have appointed Motsepe had he been aware of the allegations against her at the time. That's after former Presidents Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma turned to the High Court to review Motsepe's ruling, which refused the pair's application for her recusal in the TRC inquiry, citing, amongst other things, an apprehension of bias due to her previous role in the initial TRC. The documents further reveal that President Ramaphosa asked the Minister of Justice to approach Justice Motsepe to consider standing down in light of the controversy of her appointment and the damage to the public image of the Commission. However, Motsepe declined. The South African Police Service resorted to dirty tricks to ensure that perpetrators in the 1981 poisoning of anti-apartheid activist Reverend Frank Shikane were not prosecuted. Former NPA Special Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Anton Ackerman, made this allegation on the 15th day of the TRC case's inquiry being held in Newtown, Johannesburg.
I have no doubt that the ANC leadership must have been very concerned about the existence of this docket. After all, they did apply for amnesty of the landmine campaign and it was refused. There was only one way out for the ANC to prevent a prosecution against them, and that was to make sure that no prosecution was instituted in the Shikane matter. The TRC team was a vehicle they used. The task team was, after all, created for the purpose to make decisions on TRC matters. That is the reason why the Shikane case played a very important role in the deliberations of the task team.
Moving on to international affairs, thousands of Iranians have rallied at Tehran's Grand Mosala to mourn the late Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and to voice opposition to any negotiations with the United States and Israel as the conflict enters its 7th day today. The rally comes as Israel launched a new wave of attacks on Iran. Israel says that 50 of its warplanes had struck a bunker beneath the Tehran compound of slain Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, which is still being used by Iranian leadership. Meanwhile, the UN humanitarian coordinator in Lebanon, Imran Riza, told Reuters that about 100,000 people have fled to shelters in Lebanon and that the number of displaced people is expected to rapidly increase following unprecedented Israeli warnings ordering people to evacuate. He added that more than 1 million people were uprooted in Lebanon during a war between Hezbollah and Israel in 2024, and approximately 80% of whom were not in shelters.
What we saw in the last couple of days is, I would say, sort of unprecedented in terms of the scale here in Lebanon of the warnings, the displacement orders, and the reaction, the panic also that this is all created. At the moment, there are about 100,000 people that are, as of this morning, that are in some 477 collective shelters. There are some 57 shelters that still have some space, but basically the capacity is being reached very, very quickly.
Meanwhile, Houthi supporters have also demonstrated in solidarity with Iran and Lebanon amid the US-Israeli conflict with Iran. The Madlanga Commission will give a ruling on Monday morning on whether Northwest businessman Suleiman Karim will testify in camera or in full public glare. This after his lawyers brought an application for in-camera testimony before the Commission on Friday morning, citing death threats. The sudden application resulted in suspended SAPS component head for organized crime, Major General Richard Chibiri, not being able to take to the stand as intended for the purpose of cross-examination.
What was scheduled to be the cross-examination of the suspended component head for organized crime, Major General Richard Chibiri, was hijacked by yet another application from Northwest businessman Suleiman Karim, who through his lawyers sought to give his evidence next week in camera.
It's not the actual evidence that my client gives which brings us here, but rather the fact that merely by appearing here on the 6th of February as a confirmed witness who was then granted a postponement and which gave rise to the 4 or 5 threats that we've attached to the 2 affidavits, which don't only threaten my client individually, but also threaten his family.
The Commission's bench, however, struggled with understanding what the risk was, as the application was not supported with the necessary foundation.
But there are threats,
yes,
and there's no explanation on their possible source.
Yes.
We've engaged on that.
Yes.
Evidence leader, Advocate Adila Hassim SC, in response to the application, argued that there was no practical purpose served and the threat will not be removed by an in-camera hearing.
The reality is that Mr. Karim is known to the public. His application in the High Court to delay his appearance before this commission was widely broadcast. He then appeared before this commission in order to secure a postponement by agreement. Those proceedings were widely broadcast.
The hearings will continue on Monday, when Karim is expected to take the witness stand. However, the probe will have to give a ruling at 9:30 a.m. first as to whether Karim will testify in public or in camera. Kani Mapanga, SABC News, Pretoria.
When we return, the presidency has announced that Musiuoa Lekota, former Free State Premier and leader of the Congress of the People, will receive a special official funeral Category 2. The details are coming up shortly. Welcome back to Prime News on 3. The presidency has announced that Musiuoa Lekota, former Free State Premier and leader of the Congress of the People, will receive a special official funeral Category 2. The funeral will include full state honors, ceremonial guards, an official procession, and the national flag will be flown at half-mast. Meanwhile, a childhood friend of the former COPE leader, Musiuoa Lekota, has recounted their high hopes for their futures.
House number 463 Sieletsa Street in Maokeng, Kroonstad, is where Lekota and his family lived. Moleti says their friendship was strong and they were inseparable as youngsters. The two shared a common vision and wanted to be lawyers.
We're like a family. I said to him, when we are going to open a law firm, it must be Moleti and Lekota, not Lekota and Moleti. So because if it's Lekota and Moleti, people would think you are my senior. So, I'm your senior. He said, no, it cannot be Moleti and Lekota. It will be Lekota and Moleti. Then I kept quiet because he was very stubborn.
As a soccer player, he used to play for his father's team, City Blacks, during the time when the government introduced apartheid in sport. Lekota earned the nickname Terror because he was a mean striker on the soccer field.
The name Terror comes from Mr. Mushizana, who was our coach, he was a teacher at Magazel, he was our coach. He gave him that name, Terror.
Motsepe says the last time when Lekota paid him a visit was in December last year when he was ill. He says Lekota was in good spirit at the time. Their last interaction was a phone call 2 weeks ago. Ishmael Mudiba, SABC News, Kroonstad.
The Randwest City Local Municipality says that there is currently no need to deploy members of the South African National Defence Force in the area. The municipality says that police operations are yielding positive results and calm has been restored. During his State of the Nation address last month, President Cyril Ramaphosa announced that the SANDF would be deployed to assist police in combating criminal gangs and illegal mining across the country, including at Sporong in Gauteng's West Rand. Residents of Sporong have been pleading with government authorities to deploy the army after being terrorized by illegal miners, commonly known as Zamazamas. The situation deteriorated to the point where some residents fled their homes and took refuge at a local community hall, fearing for their lives. Despite residents holding differing views on the matter, Deputy Mayor Nontombi Mulatlegi says that there is currently no need for such deployment in the area.
At the moment, there are no SANDF that is deployed in this area due to the fact that it's only now focusing on the hotspots where actually the Zamas are operating. Because ever since the incident here in Sporong, as you see yourself behind us there are 2 Nyalas and 1 temporary satellite police station that is there.
Meanwhile, in related news, the deployment of the army to some parts of the country in the bid to fight gangsterism and illegal mining is expected to cost an estimated 823 million rand. That's what the Secretary of Defense, Dr. Thobekile Gamede, told the Joint Standing Committee on Defense. The South African National Defence Force briefed the committee on the state of preparedness for domestic deployment of the army in joint operations with the police.
In terms of state of readiness, where are we, especially financially?
A telling sign. The Deputy Minister of Defence is in the dark on the deployment of the army, both in terms of the budget and the deployment date.
This presentation of ours is in contradiction with those of the police. The best way to do so is to go back, and the next sitting we have it as a joint sitting. Summarize the salient points of that particular plan without getting into details.
It was left to the Secretary of Defence to provide the estimated cost of the deployment.
Chief of Joint Operations has submitted a budget of about 823 million. 823 million.
While SANDF is planning to deploy soldiers in 5 provinces, SABC is planning for joint operations in 4 provinces.
SABC is doing something different. You are doing something different. It will help us if you can combine it.
We really have no idea what you've actually planned. There's no clear timeframes. There's no deliverables.
This deployment will succeed only if the SANDF and SABC operate as interdependent partners.
Ulelani Philip, SABC News, Parliament.
In other news, taxi operators and transport authorities have raised their concerns following the burning of 9 vehicles at the Nyanga taxi rank in Cape Town. The Cape Town Amalgamated Taxi Association says that incidents like these are becoming a norm at the rank near its headquarters. 5 minibuses have been completely gutted and 4 others were damaged.
It's not the first time that an incident like this has occurred at this rank. It has taxi body, Kata, extremely worried and concerned. Kata cannot, however, confirm whether the fire was as a result of tensions within the organisation or whether it forms part of the ongoing rivalry between itself and Codeta.
We're just worried nobody come forward and tell us who did this and for what good reasons. So we only relied at the police service to do their proper investigation and bring the perpetrators into book.
Taxi umbrella body Santaco says the industry is already facing a difficult period amid the ongoing hostilities between Israel, the USA and Iran, with the price of fuel expected to rise.
And then you have something like this where taxis are banned. I counted 5, and 3 of those are 23-seater buses. It's terrible, and especially given that this is happening at the same association where sometime last year around 18 taxis and buses were also banned down.
The Western Cape Department of Mobility says it will not hesitate to take the necessary steps to ensure commuter safety and stability in the taxi industry.
We are not going to allow it. We are going to clamp down on these elements. We are going to make sure that we don't, make it easier for people to torch taxis in our province.
Vanessa Puna, SABC News, Nyanga, Cape Town.
Thank you for staying with us. The African Rainbow Minerals chairman and billionaire mining magnate, Dr. Patrice Motsepe, has shut down rumors regarding his supposed political ambitions. Addressing shareholders at the African Rainbow Minerals' latest results presentation, Motsepe described reports that he is campaigning for the South African presidency as false and unfounded.
I'll always stay within the ANC, but I'll continue what we've done. We will make donations to all political parties. I will maintain the historic relationship that I've had across the board, because belonging to a different political party, you're not an enemy. We're all South Africans.
The National Treasury and South African Revenue Service are studying the judgment from the Western Cape High Court, declaring a major part of the Value Added Tax Act as unconstitutional. The court declared Section 7, subsection 4 of the VAT Act as unconstitutional, finding that the power to determine tax changes cannot be determined solely by the National Executive.
Tax expert Severus Smuts says the Western Cape High Court ruling on the Value Added Tax Act provides certainty for business and individuals.
What the section determines is that if such an announcement is made, it's effective, but it has to be ratified by Parliament within 12 months. Now, I think in previous years it wasn't really an issue because, I think that ratification was easily obtained. But I think we in an era now where it's not that easy. We have the Government of National Unity. So in other words, it's not a done deal.
Parliament has been given 24 months to amend the legislation, which has been welcomed by the DA.
This was a very important case because it underscored that Parliament is the only structure that can raise taxes or impose taxes in South Africa.
The EFF says this affirms its argument in the Standing Committee on Finance and in the National Assembly that the powers to impose and alter taxation in South Africa rests with Parliament. Meanwhile, experts believe the Constitutional Court will likely confirm the High Court ruling. Nosipho Khatebe, SABC News, Johannesburg.
It is now time for us to take a look at your latest market snapshot, reflecting the day's trading activity as recorded at 7:30 this evening. Our skies are looking rather grey lately, but don't take my word for it. Our experts are on standby with all the details that you need, and your forecast is coming up next.
Thank you very much and a very warm welcome to the Weather Desk. Time for us to look at those conditions over the country now. We do have a cut-off low that's sitting over the interior of the Northern Cape, causing all those rainy conditions that we see as we move towards the central part all the way towards the east. We're talking 80% chance of showers and thunderstorms showers over the northwest stretching to Gauteng, the Free State, Mpumalanga, and also KwaZulu-Natal, just scattered over Polokwane stretching into Musina. We do have a cold front that is expected over Cape Town overnight. This cold front is causing some tight gradients ahead of the cold front. We're expecting a wind speed of up to 40 kilometers per hour, can gust up to 45 kilometers per hour. Also expecting a 30% chance of showers and rain over the mother city, stretching into the adjacent interior. For tomorrow, we see that cold front branching the southern parts of the country, dropping temperatures significantly over Gqeberha, stretching all the way into Cape Town. And also for tomorrow, over Cape Town, still causing a 30% chance of showers and rain, stretching towards Gqeberha all the way into East London. Moving towards that eastern half of the country, that cut-off flow still causing havoc, especially over Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and the northern interior of KwaZulu-Natal. We're still expecting those widespread showers and thunder showers for tomorrow. Scattered over Gauteng, stretching into Mpumalanga, isolated over parts of the northwest and also Free State. Now, looking at our warnings for tonight, we're expecting up to level 5 warning of severe thunderstorm over the northwest, stretching all the way into Free State, which means that possibilities of heavy downpours which can lead to flooding over those areas is high. Moving towards Gauteng, Limpopo, and Mpumalanga, and KwaZulu-Natal, it is a level 4 warning of severe thunderstorm. But moving towards the coast, we're expecting damaging winds and waves. It is a level 2 for tonight. And for tomorrow, those damaging winds and waves are expected over the coast, over the Eastern Cape, and also KwaZulu-Natal, which will make it difficult to navigate at sea for tonight and also for tomorrow. Moving towards Mpumalanga, Limpopo, Gauteng, and also KwaZulu-Natal, where we had that 80% chance of showers and thunder showers. We do expect that level 2 warning of severe thunderstorm over those areas. We are expecting minor impacts for tomorrow. Looking at our conditions for tonight, it is going to be a cool night, especially over Sunderland. We're expecting low of 17 over Johannesburg. For tomorrow, it is a warm day over Johannesburg with a high of 26, Musina at 28. Durban also expecting a warm day for tomorrow. Warm conditions over Appleton with a high of 26. Windy conditions over the mother city for tomorrow. It is going to be a cool day. There will be a chill factor over Cape Town. We're expecting a high of 22. That's all the weather I have for you. Stay tuned.
As the curtain closes on yet another day, we thank you for joining us. We wish you a wonderful weekend ahead. And until next time, from myself, Becky, and the team, take care.